For years, we have listened to the stories of sailors who spoke of a hideaway, a gem in the center of the vast blue Pacific Ocean that is simply not to be missed. Desert islands dotted around the edge of a beautiful turquoise lagoon, an abundant underwater ecosystem that is like swimming through an aquarium, and passes that are home to over 700 sharks. Ever since we set off from Panama, we've been dreaming of the day we drop the hook in the world-famous atoll of Fakarava. And today we are sailing the final leg to reach this diver's oasis. After chasing this dream for over 12 months and 6,000 nautical miles, we are so close to discovering exactly why sailors wax lyrical about the sandy beaches here, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Hey guys, before we start this week's episode, we just wanted to take a beat because you may have heard in the news about Hurricane Beryl ripping its way across the Caribbean.
Yeah, this was a Category 4 or Category 5 hurricane that hit super early in the season and super far south, so it was completely kind of unexpected, but it has hugely destroyed areas that we have spent time in earlier on in our sailing journey.
Yeah, if you look back or if you've been following us from episode 1, we actually travelled to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We hung out in Union Island and then we moved down to Carriacou in Grenada. And those two islands in particular were right at the heart of this maximum level, like 5 is the biggest one. And they ripped right through those islands and have destroyed so much, not only for people who live there, but also cruisers who had their boats there. There's like some boatyards we spent time in and all of the boats have been totaled, or at least that's what we've heard so far.
Yeah, 90% of the buildings have been damaged or destroyed. It is just absolutely horrendous. We are very far away and can't do anything terribly practical right now, but we would just like to point you towards the Red Cross Society Grenada. If you would like to donate and do anything you can to help, they are on hand. They are perfectly positioned to get straight in there and help, giving out shelter kits and doing a whole bunch of other stuff to just get right in there and do the practical work that we can't do from this far away.
Yeah, so if you want to check out the details in the description, you can find links there. And if you're able to donate or in some way help out, that would be huge. This has affected huge numbers of people in a tiny remote part of the world that's so easily missed. But it's so special to us and hopefully to you guys too.
It's 6 a.m. and we are underway. The conditions aren't too bad this morning. We're seeing maybe 25 to 30 knots of wind. Waves aren't massive, but they are coming on our side, so it's a little bit rolly and uncomfortable. We set off at 2 o'clock in the morning last night and we are heading to Fakarava, the scuba diving capital of French Polynesia. And we cannot wait. Well, it's not the cruisy conditions that we were expecting. The waves are so close together that we are just rolling around all over the place. But at least we're making good speeds. We're going about 7 knots, which is nice. I can see that we are getting pretty close to an atoll in front of us, so we're just going to have to tack our way around the end of it, and then we should just be able to make a beeline straight for the North Pass of Fakarava. Well, now we've made our tack, we can see the effect the current is having on us. Our boat speed has dropped from 7 knots down to 3. So I have just popped the starboard engine on just to give us that little boost, keep our forward momentum up. We only need to kind of come out in this direction for about an hour and then we should be able to make another turn and not hit land. So that's the plan. Well, Ian did the whole of the night shift, but he is now somewhat recovered and joining me in the land of the living. How are you feeling?
Yeah, not a lot of sleep's taking place on this one. It's been quite a lumpy passage.
It is bouncy.
It is, but, you know, just getting to lie down with your eyes shut for whatever it was, 4 hours?
Yeah.
Something like that. That was enough, I think. Hopefully I'll be able to burn on for the rest of the day. We might just get down to like shorter and shorter sort of watches.
Yeah.
So
I've done 10 minutes, you're
exactly.
saying?
I'm going to rest this eye, and this eye. It'll be that kind of thing. But I think we may have made our final tack, or penultimate tack.
We're going to be very close.
It depends if you call a tack one turn, or do you do two, or is that a pair of tacks? I don't know. Anyway, we are now aiming for Fakarava. It is over there.
Hooray!
I can't even tell you how far away it is. It's like 30, 40 miles over there, I think. I'm not sure. So yeah, we're going to just be on this line for the next couple of hours, I guess. I'm excited because I wore you down and they're letting me fish. Wait, how many fishing lines have I got here? Yeah. How many lines should we put out? 2 or 3?
Only 2. It's too wobbly to have to deal with the fish if we catch it.
I know, it's going to be a bit of a mission filleting it if we do catch anything. But the thing I'm dreaming of is catching a fish so that when we arrive, we can go around the anchorage. Because I think, well, the first anchorage we're going to is going to be quite quiet, but I think Fakarava is quite touristy.
Yeah, it should be busy, I think.
It'd be nice to make some friends, turn up with the fish and be like, have some fish, or meet us for dinner somewhere and do a barbecue.
Yeah, that would be nice. It's been so long since we have caught anything. I almost feel like we've forgotten how to do it. We've either been like inside atolls where we don't want to catch anything for the risk of ciguatera, or just sailing from here to Tahiti and Tahiti back. We only caught barracuda and we didn't want to eat those, so they went back. So yeah, it has been a while. We're out of practice.
So I know we haven't talked a lot about some of our recent passages, but the last couple of sails we've done have been particularly lumpy, challenging conditions and not very pleasant, which has kind of made it hard to film. I mean, to give you an idea, the last sail to this one, we were going along and the waves were big enough that one washed across the back of the transom and actually took our life ring away out of that holder. It manages to lift the whole thing up and then take it out to sea, which is a real shame because it means it's now sitting somewhere in the sea and getting washed up on the beach somewhere. Maybe someone will make use of it, I hope. But I mean, we had secured it. It's been living in that cradle, if you like, for 4 years, and it's been pretty solid in there too because we never take it out. But yeah, so it's made it quite hard to film. So we're doing our best to show you a little bit more of what it's really like sailing on Indioko when we're beating into it. The good news is this might be the last beating into it passage we have to do for a little while, because once we get to Fakarava, we're going to try and sail inside the atoll a little bit, and then the idea is to start heading north, or northwest, I suppose. And at that point, we'll sort of be back in the world of downwinding, the way that gentlemen are supposed to sail.
I should also explain that we are making things a little bit harder for ourselves because we have left our paddle boards deflated and just in a heap in the cockpit. They both exploded recently in the hot tropical sunshine, and we've been doing our best to repair them, but we didn't quite finish before we left. So I didn't want to roll them up tightly when it's putting pressure on the seams and they might just break again, but I also didn't want to be putting them out on the rail when they are not quite finished and solid and reliable. So here they are, but when we go on this tack, the wind sort of blows them out of the cockpit. So we've had one already try to escape, so we should maybe stow them a little bit better.
It's questionable if you can still call them paddleboards at this point. They're probably about 70% epoxy.
Yeah, they're becoming not really inflatable. They're just becoming hard boards.
We should just make rigid ones, yeah. If we inflate it and then just dip the whole board through a bath of epoxy and then leave it to dry.
Perfect, yeah.
Let's do that. Or, we could save up and get new ones.
Well, that's probably the more sensible.
It is our one way of exercising. It's like that and scuba diving.
Yeah.
And the only way is to exercise unless we go to brownie hike, and then who knows if we'll ever get home. So I think this is quite important.
So the conditions are all just kind of evening out a little bit. The wind has come down a little bit. The waves are getting a bit smoother. Ian has just shaken out the reef in our mainsail, so we're only into one reef there now. And we have just seen a bunch of birds in front of the boat, which usually means there's some kind of a bait ball. So maybe we'll catch a fish.
Slightly ahead of schedule, turns out, land ho. Yeah, we can now see Fakarava rushing up on us quite quickly. It's actually quite funny because as we started to approach, at first I thought I saw a lighthouse, which turned out to be another sailboat with a big spinnaker up that was sailing directly towards us. So they kind of went from being stick-shaped to kind of balloon-shaped, and then they got a lot bigger. But we managed to skim past them with about 500-600 meters to spare in all this open ocean. I don't know why we aimed at each other so bluntly, but there you go. So yeah, we just need to do one more tack. We'll shoot along the coast of the atoll, of the islands, I suppose, that make up the atoll, and then get ourselves in line for the entrance and check the time, check the tides.
This has been a bit of a test sail in some ways. We have done a couple of repairs. So before we left, we replaced the clutch for our Genoa sheet that broke on our last passage. And we also took our Genoa down while we were in Rangiroa to make a couple of repairs. There was nothing too horrendous, but some of the stitching had come loose quite near the top, just down on the edge where the sacrificial UV strip goes with the blue umbrella. So we've pulled that down, and we've got quite a cool setup where we open the hatch in the front cabin, and I stand on the bed but have the sailrite, the sewing machine, out on deck, and then we just put up our little canopy to keep the sun off me as well. So managed to get all of those things repaired, and now is kind of the first time I can see them in action, really. But you can't really see because the camera's so far away, but they look okay. They're certainly holding, and now it's not unraveling or going to come undone or likely to rip. So hopefully they'll hold out for quite a while longer. Well, we made it to the pass. We are about 2.5 hours early. Unfortunately, low tide is going to be after sunset, and we don't really fancy going in the dark and anchoring in the dark and not being able to see what we're doing. So we're going to have to play the game of killing time and zigzagging out here for a little bit to try and let the 6-knot current die down a little bit. But we are going to have to go in probably with still about 4 knots of current against us. But it's just the best balance that we can come up with before the light has faded too far. So here we go for 90 minutes of zigzagging. We tried to be as patient as we could, and it is now 5 o'clock, so it is about an hour before low tide, but we're giving up and we're going in anyway.
The sun sets at 5:20.
What?
So,
5:20? That's earlier than I thought.
yeah, so we have about 23 minutes to get through and maybe anchored.
Excellent.
But it's dusk until like 6:10 according to this, so
Okay, yeah, so we'll still have light until 6 p.m. We should just sneak in.
the moon is already up. So, you know, we'll have some moonlight to help us on the way. So should be good. And then yeah, tide-wise, I think we're near
Almost
enough low
there.
tide, so we'll go with it.
So far, we've just been coming along the end of this beach, kind of hugging the coast, and now we're just going to tuck into the center of the pass. So all of the current should be coming out the middle here. We're just trying to avoid it for as long as possible. I think there's going to be about 3.5 knots, but so far, it is all quite straightforward. Well, it was almost dark by the time we ended up dropping the hook, but we are all settled here now. The wind has swung round to the south, which means that we have no protection in this anchorage, so things have been quite rolly. But we are very, very well positioned to get back to the pass to dive it. So Ian has just thrown the drone up to check what the tides are doing, what the currents are doing, and hopefully we can jump in a dinghy and get underwater. I want to see a shark!
It's looking good, actually. I think we've probably got just the start of an incoming current. So if we were to go soonish, then we would get picked up, well, we drop in outside the pass and drift our way back in into the safety of the lagoon.
In 10 seconds.
Fine. But yeah, otherwise I think we'll be pretty well set to do that dive this morning.
So we have some diving friends that we actually met in Bonaire back in the Caribbean who are here. They're over in the village, which is about an hour away. We haven't seen them in like, I don't know, a year and a half or something. But we're hoping that they are going to come over this morning and dive with us, because when we're doing a drift dive, we need somebody in the dinghy who can then pick us up, because we don't end up in the same place. We drop in the water and the current carries us in, and we need somebody to drive the dinghy to meet us at the other side. So we're hoping that we can kind of partner up with them and we can all get some underwater time. Nice to see ya!
Hey, it's still pretty choppy out here.
Using Indy as our home base, we got our gear ready and loaded up the 2 dinghies that would take the 5 of us over to the pass. Although the anchorage wasn't great, it put us in a perfect spot to reach the drop-off point. And with 2 people choosing to stay at the surface and snorkel with the dinghies in tow, it left 3 of us free to take our dive gear and drop deep into the blue. After following along the reef for a while, we waited out in the blue in the hope that some sharks would turn up to play. We saw a couple, but nothing up close. And then we headed up into the shallows until the current spun and started pulling us back out the pass. This is just our first taste of diving in Fakarava, and we're getting ready for the world-class Wall of Sharks dive down in the south end of the atoll. Something tells us we won't be disappointed. As we came up to the surface, we expected our snorkeling buddies to pick us up in the dinghies. But instead, we got a free ride on a local dive boat. This guy had just dropped off a group of divers and was waiting around for them to finish, and offered us a lift back to the shallows, where the others had found a perfect spot to tie up the dinghies while they got distracted by all the sea life around them.
So we had a pretty good day yesterday. After the dive, we decided to take our friends all the way back to the village, which is not that far. It's like a half hour, 45-minute sail. Because they'd come all the way out in their dinghies, we thought it was only fair that we just bring the whole of Indioko with 3 dinghies hanging off the back all the way back to the village. And and had a nice little catch up with everyone, which is really cool. Now that we're here, however, we found out, typically us, we hadn't planned this, but there's like some kind of music event happening. Apparently it happens across all of the French departments. So French Polynesia being part of France, like Martinique and other places like that, there's supposed to be live music all happening on one day around the world. So we're going to head into into town. That's not very accurate. We're going to head into the tiny village where we've been told there will be some live music. Apparently people could sign up during the week and things. So we'll see what it's all about.
So Rangaroa was technically a bigger atoll, but this, it feels really built up. It's got loads of like city lights. I think there's about 4 houses, but it feels like a metropolis.
I kind of get the feeling that Fakarava have a tourist council or board, I guess, and they've really thought out how to market themselves, because it's quite clear that a lot of tourism has come here.
Yeah.
And it is, although it's a smaller community, it is definitely more built up. Like there's coloured painted streetlights and massive satellite dish communications and things.
It feels very designed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So there's no sign of where this is yet. All we know is it's on the wharf, which I thought was going to be right next to the dinghy dock, and there's nobody there. So we're at the main road, left or right?
I'm going to go for follow my gut.
You normally follow the noses, but you're colliding with the gut.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I know there's pizza over to our right, and I think I can hear music on the right. So let's go that way.
Okay, we're going this way. I know I have a reputation for leading people astray on my briny hikes, but let the record show. Ian
Why?
said, let's turn right.
You misheard me, for sure. I'm thinking, why did you take me on a goose chase of the entire village? That's so
Yeah,
silly.
we've just walked in a massive square and come back to where we started, and it was just to the left, like 100 metres. But we're here, we found
It
it.
hadn't started yet, so, you know, we just warmed up. Otherwise, you just sit there like an auntie waiting for the songs to start. Whereas now, there's fashionably
Parties in
late.
full swing.
Exactly.
I love events like these. It's like proper whole village event where the whole community all turns out. There's a bunch of sailors here. There's a bunch of other tourists all joining in. All of the songs so far have been in Tahitian, so we're not really following them, but I've heard the word tuamotus and marquesas, so we're kind of getting it.
So we've just slipped away to grab a bite to eat. It's quite cool. It's not quite a festival, but this is the equivalent to the food van. And the lady who works here is doing serious business tonight. Like, everybody is flowing out. I feel like almost all of this island of Fakarava, or the island in the atoll, have charged out here to join in this kind of community vibe. So it's been really fun, but I get the feeling it's going to go on quite late. Plus, I think my hamburger's ready.